All right, everybody, here we go with the notes for Chapter 1, a scaffold for programmers. The videos for this chapter is going to be broken up into 4 parts. This part is going to cover sections 1 and 2 of your notes. Let's go ahead and get started. First off, let's answer the question, what is programming? Programming as an outcome is a group of programs on a radio station, a television network, or a cell phone. So programming in this sense is the result of the things that you see on your TV screen or hear on your radio, the way that everything is presented, the way that you consume it is the outcome or the result of programming. Programming also, though, is a process. It is the act of choosing and scheduling programs. So you've got the product itself and you've got the process of creating the product. Both of those things are considered within the definition of programming. So in a fuller sense, if we're defining programming, we would describe it as the process of selecting, scheduling, promoting, and evaluating programs, and that defines the work of a programmer, the person or the people that is responsible for all those different things within the job of programming. The programmer's job will be fourfold. It is to choose content that targets the desired audience. So part of what the programmer does is it tries to match up the programming that it offers with the intended target audience that it is trying to reach out to. Just like a radio station would have a particular format to appeal to a certain type of person, television would also do the same thing in that regard, except with programming instead of with a particular music or talk format. Second aspect of the programmer's job is to design a schedule. Once they've chosen the content, they put everything together in terms of a time, in terms of a clock. Thirdly, making sure the content is effectively marketed. This involves promotion, whether it's promotion within the TV or radio station itself or in outside venues such as billboards, print, internet, whatever else, to basically let people know what they have available to the public. And fourthly, monitoring the outcome. So once you have it out there, once the content has been consumed or not consumed, you want to try to understand what has taken place in that regard and also try to figure out why it took place. The main functions of commercial media is to deliver an audience to advertisers. So as much as we think that TV and radio stations are out there to entertain the public at large, well, yes, that is a function of what they do, but ultimately they want to make advertisers happy so that advertisers will buy advertising on TV and radio stations. Now, appealing to the audience is the main way that advertisers are going to be attracted to a TV or radio station. But you, the public, the consumer, the watcher, the one being entertained, is not necessarily the final customer. It is the advertiser. Now, you're a way that they attract the advertiser to the station. Again, the advertiser wants the eyeballs, they want the earlobes, they want their message to be reached by you and me. And the TV station, the radio station, is going to have a vested interest in keeping us, those that they want to entertain, happy, but more so, they want advertisers to be happy. 3 big changes to the media world include, first off, in the world of digital media, there's been this concept of time shifting. that's been going on. The use of video recorders such as DVRs, which took the place of VCRs several years ago, and also video on demand. So basically, this is the idea of, regardless of when a TV station showcases a program or a movie or a sporting event or whatever, we have the option to record it and play it back later, or go to one of our favorite video services and call things up whenever we want them. There's also the particular devices that we use to consume our video content. Phones, tablets, smart TVs, all providing alternatives to consuming media by means of rabbit ears, over-the-air media, or cable television, all of which is in a scheduled format and requires us to sit down at Tuesday night at 8 o'clock or Thursday night at 10 o'clock or whenever our program is slated to air. And, well, now we have all these other devices besides those traditional means of consuming TV. Thirdly, new media only partially replaces old media. But new media has also generated new ways for audiences to use media. We no longer really talk about shows in the way that we used to 20 and 30 years ago. There's not a whole lot of, hey, did you watch this particular program last night when it was scheduled to go over the air on ABC or CBS or Discovery Channel or whatever else. Many people may not have watched when it was originally put out over the air. So there's this longer stretch of how that media is consumed, and it affects our culture as well, because not everybody watches content at the same time the way that they used to. Internet access provides for media programmers replay of major movies and network television series and specials. And with all of these, what we're really seeing is that just as much as the internet and new media have become a bit of competition for traditional media outlets, for broadcast, for cable, that sort of thing, we're also seeing broadcast and cable finally start to embrace that environment and use it to their advantage. We're also seeing, in addition to what's being offered over the traditional airwave, that original programs made for the web are being made available by the networks in terms of producing specific content. CBS All Access, a great example of that, where you can only watch shows like Tuning Out the News or Star Trek Picard by consuming it on the digital platform. It's not available on traditional media. Not to mention the fact that there's all the different streaming services that many people subscribe to, like Hulu and Netflix, and you've even got amateurs getting into the game like YouTube. Websites that carry updates and background about TV stars, program plots, and schedules also coming into the foray here. So it's very easy to go and look up information about a particular program that you're interested in or a particular actor and have all of that right there at your fingertips. Also, a gazillion places for program promotion and advertising. Website after website after website, platform after platform after platform, social media really helping for the promotion aspect in that regard, where sometimes it's you and me that is doing the promotion for the individual programs and programmers, because we are so involved and interactive with the process of the entertainment that we consume. Both program promotion and program relay matter. They influence the all-important ratings. We're going to talk throughout the course about how these ratings have developed both in a traditional sense and ways that media outlets are now looking at how those ratings are impacted, whether it's by the traditional means, by consumption in new media, what different platforms are being used. But the thing of it is that they want as many people consuming their content as possible. Time spent on social media takes away from time for consuming traditional broadcast and cable programs. That's true, but it's also not true. In one aspect, you now have so many different forms of entertainment that are available at home that they all seem to compete with each other in one way or another. But at the same time, it's not unusual for people, especially now with tablets and smartphones, to be cruising Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, whatever else, as they're also consuming traditional content. Sometimes we're noticing that shows that we're watching on the networks are encouraging us to go onto their Facebook page or to download a particular app of theirs and interact with the program as it's on the air, or encouraging us to share the things that we're taking away as we're watching a particular broadcast to our friends and our circle of influences that we have on the web. Media competition, consolidation across competitive boundaries. So what we're seeing, and we're going to talk a good bit about this as well, is that you've got companies that are combining together either in terms of partnerships or in terms of one company acquiring another in order to provide different types of entertainment, different types of advertising packages to potential clients by offerings that they have on all sorts of different platforms. Comcast and NBC coming together several years ago, a great example of that. Broadcast networks competing with online services. Again, traditional networks, ABC and CBS, going against companies like YouTube and Netflix that offer their own forms of entertainment. We're also seeing ownership powerfully affecting programming. We see this most profoundly in the 24-hour news channel system. Political bias, where people on the right tend to like Fox News and Newsmax. People on the left tend to like MSNBC and CNN. And while it's pretty much been tradition throughout the 20th century that news networks and news programs ought to be objective in their news coverage, we're starting to see that become less and less and less so because of the value that news networks are seeing in appealing to a certain segment of the population, which means playing to their political bias. Money, the financial clout of an owner, the number of co-owned outlets, the size of its audience, all play into how media portrays itself and the kinds of content that it puts out there and the goals that it has. Consolidation also leads to more reduce, reuse, and recycle rather than innovation. So you may see program content that aired on one particular channel may be repackaged and aired on another channel or on another program or used in different ways as opposed to more original content that is being made available. So as we go through this course, a few themes that we'll be talking about is how content is paid for, determines much of its structure, and its availability. Who are they appealing to? Are they appealing to advertisers like traditional networks and cable networks? Are they appealing more to the consumer in terms of groups like premium cable channels like HBO, for example, or online services that actually have you subscribe to its content. Another theme, the traditionally linear structure of broadcast media is adapting to the emergence of personal and mobile media. Linear, think of that in terms of the clock, in terms of appointment viewing, whereas personal and mobile media tends to be very much more on demand, also tends to be much more intimate than trying to reach out to a broad audience like the networks do. Thirdly, the dissolving of fixed ideas about channels and day parts. Again, new media is really challenging that idea of programs being available at certain times for certain audiences on certain channels. And we're even seeing, as time goes along and as culture changes for various reasons, that traditional day parts, even in radio, have been changing significantly because of the different habits of people in their work environments, in their commutes, and things like that, all that coming into play. Fourthly, the enmeshing of some competitors while others stay far apart. So while you have Hulu, that tends to offer a lot of programs from various networks, including ABC and NBC and Fox, CBS has stayed away, choosing to offer programming content on its own platform. And we're starting to see more companies do that in much similar sort of ways, but in segmented sort of ways as well. You're finding new partnerships coming out between different networks and different services. Fox has recently done an agreement with Tubi TV. NBC coming out with its own streaming platform, Peacock. So you're going to see differing opinions and differing philosophies on the integration of traditional media with new media. And fifth, the struggle for bigger shares of the overall American audience and specific sub-audiences. Traditionally, programming has been about trying to get the highest ratings of the general American public as possible. But as we go on, we are seeing more and more emphasis on reaching a particular niche audience. And we're going to talk a good bit about that as it comes to audience demographics, appealing to certain types of audiences, what that entails, and how specific, how niche can we get in doing so. So we're going to take a look now at the process of programming. The only way to maximize the size of an audience targeted by advertisers is to satisfy the needs and wants of that audience, whatever they are, today, tomorrow, and on into the future. So really, this is the way that TV and radio stations are trying to answer the two fundamental questions of any form of communication. For that first question, what is your message? The second question, who is your audience? So the message that you have needs to be tailored to a particular audience that they're in a way to be able to receive that message, kind of meeting them where they're at, if that makes sense. So in other words, you're probably not going to reach a bunch of senior citizens by using modern rap music, for example. Could it happen? Sure, it could. But generally speaking, you're not going to see that sort of entertainment appeal to that type of audience. So you need to think about not just what it is you want to say, what sort of message you want to communicate, but you need to think about who you're communicating that to and how they expect to receive that message. Viewers tend to choose channels and websites, but they expect someone else to have filled those channels and websites in an expert sort of way. So kind of a dichotomy here when it comes to the consuming public. We all have our different interests. We all have things that we like and don't like. And we want to have content that is tailor-made for us. But at the same time, we're a little lazy. We don't necessarily want to have to go to location A for this content, location B for this content, and search for something over here to consume entertainment form C. We like when there's a channel, a network, a website, whatever it may be, that has the vast majority of things that we are going to be attracted to, what appeals to us. So in that regard, we tend to wind up having our favorite radio stations, our favorite television stations, our favorite cable networks, our favorite websites that we go to consume content. And that's a result of the people that program all those different venues, that they provide content that appeals to us. In the case of mass appeal channels, programmers go after as many viewers as possible. And that's traditionally been your broadcast networks, ABC, CBS, NBC. In the case of specialty cable and internet channels, the programmer may be more interested in pleasing a particular audience subgroup. So we're getting more into niche programming here. Channels like Discovery and History and National Geographic tend to have more documentary and information-based sorts of things. Channels like TBS and Comedy Central focusing on making people laugh. You have your various movie channels and niches of movie channels. Channels that appeal to a particular cultural group. All those sorts of things where they're not going for just general public, but they're going for a certain type of person that advertisers may be especially interested in trying to reach out to. Very narrowly targeted channels survive with advertising, but if audiences are small, few people will buy. So there's kind of that challenge there. They might also charge subscription fees, but audiences tend to expect most programs to come for, well, quote unquote free, we'll call it. Nothing's free in the grand scheme of things. Anything that we consume for free actually costs us in terms of time, and that time being that we're watching advertising content, which is why some people choose to pay more to subscribe to a service so that they have limited commercials or no commercials at all. Good shows cost a lot of money. Take a look through, Google some of your favorite television and cable shows, and the ones that are more popular. Look up to see how much the actors make per episode. And even if we're not just considering the particular actors and how much they make, there's also the cost of all the different people that work behind the scenes on a television show or broadcast. There's the equipment that is involved. There's the time spent from start to finish, from filming to editing, the equipment it takes for all those sorts of things. One byproduct of a smaller network audience in the United States has been greater efforts to market U.S. programs in other countries. So this is kind of interesting, and we'll get into some of this as we go on through the course. The international market has become more and more prevalent, not just from the U.S. export of programs, but also importing programs from other places, from the UK in particular, but also from other places around the world. with Hispanic audiences, a lot of programming content coming from Central and South America. How programming is unique? Well, there's the ease of delivery, material available to nearly every consumer. However, reaching a national audience is becoming less and less difficult with things like Wi-Fi, internet cafes, the fact that you carry an entertainment platform in your pocket with your smartphone. It is very, very easy to make content available and to be able to produce content with the consumer grade equipment that's out there is a lot better now than some of the professional equipment of 30 years ago. Broadcasters have long been the first adopters of content production for new screen technologies, things like color and HD and 3D. Once it becomes commonplace in the broadcast world, then others pick it up later. There's no apparent direct cost to consumers for the most popular shows. Again, broadcast TV is free. Cable networks come with the cost of your cable subscription. You don't necessarily pay extra for it unless you intentionally choose to, so that, again, you're not paying through time spent watching advertising. In the case of broadcast programming, the low cost of viewers generates audiences large enough to sell to advertisers. Programmers work only indirectly for the audience. You're actually kind of a commodity when you're tuning in to a television broadcast because you add to the ratings. The higher the rating, the more a television station or network can charge its advertisers, because they're paying for that larger population that is there available to see its message. So what does the audience want? Well, the most important part of programming is understanding the audience. Again, we've talked about that. What is your message? Who is your audience? How does the audience expect to receive that message? How are you going to meet them where they are at? Comedy and drama, conflict and resolution, engaging characters, evoking emotion. As far as that particular genre of programming, we're kind of breaking it up there. Comedy is its own thing, drama is its own thing, although we're seeing a lot more blending of those in recent years. But they have in common that we connect with the particular characters. We connect with the particular storylines, the way the stories are told. In the moment sort of programming, like reality shows, game shows, sporting events, they create an urgency. It's these types of things may be the one sort of programming that, besides news, would actually keep us in some sort of appointment programming sort of mindset. You know, we like to watch sporting events as they happen. We get wrapped up in other shows where, you know, there's a competition element. We want to know who wins, who makes it out on top. And then information programming, again, news broadcasts, news stories. We're seeing a lot more entertainment go into those as well, where stories are being told in a feature sort of way, that they add a personal element to it, or try to make the news relevant to its audience in much more personal ways than just telling you the who, what, when, where, why, and how. So that's the first couple of sections of the notes. You're going to want to find part B of the video so that you can continue on with chapter 1.